Hey guys, welcome back to Too Much Clutch. Today we're doing a huge channel update. I'll see you guys after the intro. Alrighty, so I'm here with the 2016 Fiat Abarth. As you guys know from my last video, I took it to the dyno and we put down on a phase 0 tune, 160 horsepower and 212 torque. So today I'm going to be just going over some of the other stuff that I added on. We've got a Forge Motorsports wastegate, we've got a Go Fast Bits diverter valve plus, and we've got Eurocomp's V4.1 intake. So let's get to this. Alright, so the first thing you guys can see whenever you pop the hood is this big red intake here. This is Eurocompulsion's V4.1 intake, and pretty much what this replaces is the whole factory airbox. So down here we've got the factory airbox, and under this red part is the stock air filter, which restricts a lot of the air, let alone this small diameter tubing that runs from the intake manifold all the way down to the turbo. And then on the other side, this is the part that connects to the intercooler piping. So air has to go all the way through here, through the filter, all the way down and around. And the diameter of this is, I think it's like 1.9 inches or something right along there. So when you get the V4.1, it just runs straight from the intercooler piping, just in a straight line, pretty much with one curve down to the turbo. And this piping, it widens out here, I think, to right around 2.5 inches. And then, you know, your connections down here and over here, you still got the 1.9 inches. But it increases airflow and allows for a little bit more performance. So the next mod that I have is the Forge wastegate actuator. And with this, I also bought the spring set, which comes with the yellow spring, a blue spring, a purple, a red, and a green. And they all have different weights for different amounts of boost. So right now, I think I have I want to say I have the yellow spring installed, which is right around 15 to 18 pounds of boost. And with this, the difference between the old one is down here. This one, even if you wanted to, you can't swap out the springs. There's no bolts or anything to take this cover off. So there's just one spring in here. And even if you wanted to adjust the load, it would still be on the factory spring. This wouldn't adjust the boost pressure as much. It would only allow you to change whatever you wanted on the preload. Also, the Forge wastegate actuator is a little bit lighter than the OEM one. The next mod that I installed is we've got our OBX catless downpipe. Now, the heat wrap that I ordered off of eBay it's honestly trash. It turned white. Said it was titanium, but when I got it, it was obviously fiberglass. So you can see where it's kind of just coming apart. But I mean, for $5 for a roll, it wasn't too bad to just keep heat temps down a little bit. For these mods, I'm not really going in any specific order. Some of them I actually had installed on the dyno. Not many though. Really the only things that were installed for the dyno, the OBX catless downpipe, and I had a K&N air filter in the factory airbox, so it was a tiny bit more airflow, but not much. So the next mod that we have down here, it's going to be kind of hard to see, but you can see where the silver bolt is right there. That is the Go Fast Bits diverter valve plus. Now, the reason I went with the diverter valve instead of a blow-off valve for this car was with the diverter valve, it just recirculates all of the air back into the turbo and keeps it spinning, versus getting a blow-off valve, which just releases into the atmosphere, which in theory does make a cool sound, but it can cause the turbo to backspin, which could be bad for the turbo, and you could lose boost. All right, and then for the last thing down here, we have some different spark plugs in here. I think they're NGK Iridiums, and it's whatever the model number is. I can't remember that off the top of my head, but they're gapped to, I think, 0.22 millimeters, which is what was recommended for a phase 1 tune. Okay, so now we're gonna move on to the interior of the car, and I'll show you some of the stuff that I put in recently. All right, so one of the appearance mods that I did, it's you know, window tint, because honestly, window tint makes any car look a lot better. So I'm gonna roll up the windows here, and what I put on actually all around everywhere except for the windshield is 5%. So that's kind of what 5% looks like right around 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. And when it gets dark, it's actually pretty dark. Like the back over here, you can see you can still see through it pretty easily, but it definitely helps out a lot as far as like the sun and stuff like that. And then on the windshield, that's 15%, it doesn't really look like there's any tint on there, but when it's dark out, it's definitely dark. This one's not really an interior mod, but it's where my tuner is on the inside of the car, so we're gonna go ahead and take a look at my handheld tuner. So this is Eurocomp's Eurodrive Plus tuning solutions. So this is what you buy for, at least for the Abarth. Now, the difference between this and like a piggyback ECU or a piggyback tune or something like that is a piggyback, it allows you to keep your stock tune, but it's just a generic base tune that allows you to maybe use a little bit more boost, but it doesn't really, it's not good for the car as far as tuning goes. So with this, you download your stock file, and see if I can pull it up. With this tuner, you would go to work, and then you would go to writing, and then original. And what this would allow you to do is, I already have my stock file on here, so it's not gonna allow me to do it now, but you would go to original and click partial write, and it'll allow you to download your stock file. So then once you do that, you connect this to the computer and you upload it to Eurodrive's cloud, and one of their tuners downloads your file, modifies it, and then resends it to you. And then you just download it back from the computer, plug this back into your car, and then you go to writing, modified, and if we look at my phase 2 tune, I've got a 695 TF, which this is essentially a step up from the stock tune. And then we have a phase 0, which is a step up from that, phase 1, which is a step further than that, and then all the way at the back here we have phase 2, which is the highest tune that I have available to me right now. And currently the car is running on phase 1 because I don't have the intercooler yet, and for phase 2 that's what you need. Alright, so the last thing that I have is I've got a couple other power adders that I put on the car pretty much whenever I get different parts in the mail, and it comes with these because honestly, like, these stickers, they add a little bit of power. Like this one right here, they said added anywhere from 2 to 3 horsepower, and then the Forge Motorsports one, they said added about half a horsepower, and then the TX2K adds about 15. So those help out a lot. And my last favorite thing that I was actually able to get in Florida with this car is a custom license plate. Now, originally I was going to go with Turbski with an I, but that wasn't available, so I just went ahead and did it with a Y. So I think it was cool to just go along with the car, and for it actually to be available was pretty surprising. Alright, now let's move on to the CBR. So here we have my 2016 Honda CBR 600RR. I got this bike back in September of last year, so I've only had it for roughly 8 months or so. And this is my first sport bike, my first actual legitimate motorcycle. I had dirt bikes before, but I decided to go ahead and go with a sport bike just because I like to go fast. I don't really like cruising around on, say, a Harley Davidson or something like that. That's just not really my style. But having the bike for 8 months and it being my first bike, I got used to it really quickly. Just like anyone, you know, everyone has a different riding style. Everyone is different when it comes to bikes, but for me, I was able to get adjusted to this bike and comfortable with it within 2 to 3 months, and then just being able to ride it and working on riding, being a better rider and everything like that over the rest of the time. But I mean, honestly, some of my friends, they have 400cc bikes, and you know, some of like the Ninja 650s that aren't the, you know, the actual Ninjas or something like that. That's their first bikes, and they're like, man, I paid all this money for a bike that I'm already used to, and now I'm bored of it. I mean, honestly, I'm bored of this bike. Like, it'll go every bit of 155, but still, it's slow. Like, it feels slow. And like, the difference with this bike versus, say, a Kawasaki Ninja 636 or, you know, the Yamaha R6 or any other 600 sport bikes in the class is this bike here, it's kind of comfortable to ride, but the power delivery is just too smooth for me. It's kind of like, it feels like a Prius. It's just too smooth. Now with the bike, there's not really a whole lot of mods that you can do unless you get crazy and rebuild the engine or something like that. But I went ahead and took off my mirrors just because I never really got in the habit of trusting them. I always looked over my shoulder, so I think it looks cooler without them, and you know, it kind of makes me have to look before I switch lanes or something like that. And then I've got adjustable clutch and brake levers for different clutch grab lengths and different brake touchiness. We've got a tank grip pad here that kind of is supposed to block, you know, from belt loops or something like that, but I actually have some scratches on this side somehow. And then down here we've got the swing arm spools, which allow for the racing stands to go under so I can work on the bike. And then I've got my fender eliminator kit here, which deletes all of the huge blinkers and that whole device that always sits under every factory bike, usually whenever you buy it. Now you're probably like, hey man, where are your blinkers at? You know, you can't be riding through traffic not letting people know where you're going. Well, I figured it out. So TST Industries offers a integrated tail light system, which has your blinkers and your brake light on just that one light. Now this one is an outdated one compared to like the 2008 CBR 600s, where whenever you press the brake pedal, it'll strobe light it, so it like flashes instead of just changing to a brighter color, which they were supposed to reinvent that for this year, but they still haven't gotten around to it, which is kind of unfortunate. Now really the only performance mod that I have with this bike is the K&N race air filter, which you guys aren't really going to be able to see, but it's under the gas tank here, and that's where the air box is. Now the race air filter was a whopping $95. When I installed it, I definitely felt a difference as far as like the power delivery went, but it's not going to be a crazy difference because it's a bike. You know, replacing that air filter, I maybe gained 2 horsepower, if that, without a tune. And on a bike, that's actually, you know, a big increase, because you got to think, you know, bikes are only, this bike is only about 95 to 100 horsepower to the wheel. So adding 2 more horsepower that's a big difference. Versus, you know, adding an intake on this car and, you know, say 10 horsepower worth of tune, that's a pretty big difference. Alright, so for the next topic, we're going to talk about the future of the channel. Yeah, I know it's a small channel, but it's slowly growing thanks to you guys, you know, supporting the videos, sharing it with your friends and family. Right now we're at about 140 subscribers, which is awesome. You know, I can't complain. I post what I like, and you guys obviously like the same thing. Or, you know, you come here for a different reason. You know, some people come here for the Fiat, some people come for the bike, and others just come because it's an automotive channel. So with the Fiat, we've got, like I said, we have the Eurocomp intake, we've got the Eurodrive tuner, diverter valve, wastegate actuator, the wastegate springs, and the spark plugs, which is almost a fully built car for the most part for a street car. And the only things left that I would need to completely build it is the front mount intercooler, coil packs, and there's something called a pedal commander, which it adjusts the pedal sensitivity, and it's got like 16 different modes. There's one that if you set it to, I think it's 100% or something, as soon as you press the gas pedal, it's just full throttle. It doesn't matter if you barely tap it, it's just full throttle. But with those things in mind, it comes out to about $1,200 to make it fully built. And then I can run the phase 2 tune, and with that we should see right over 200 horsepower to the wheels, and the torque should be anywhere from 250 to 270-ish, which is still a lot. I mean, I'm gonna have to get new tires if we do that, because it already loses grip in first gear. But as far as this car goes, like, I bought this car to make it a daily, you know, so I could go from work and back home. But this car was meant to be a daily. It wasn't really meant to be, you know, a fully built race car or anything like that. It was a car that I can put miles on. So that's pretty much where we're at for the car. I think for right now, I might get the intercooler here in, say, a month or so, and just leave it at that, because then, you know, everything will work together. They'll have way more airflow. They'll have colder airflow, so we'll be able to see a little bit more power. Alright guys, that concludes this video. Like I said earlier, there should be a new car coming to the channel in probably a couple months. I'm not too sure on what it's going to be yet, but I will say that there may be a hint somewhere in the video, and that could determine on what car is coming to the channel after the motorcycle's gone. But we're still going to have a little bit more fun with that before we send it on its way. But I'll let you guys comment down below and try and take a wild guess on what that's going to be. But we've got a couple more things coming for the Fiat, and then we're just going to leave it where it's at. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.